soul. In you I trust, oh Lord. Higher than the mountain, deeper than the sea, wider than the ocean is your love for me. You're with me on the mountain and in the valley below. You are right here beside me everywhere that I go.
Welcome to Created Creative. I'm Dawn.
And I'm Ruth.
How was your week?
I don't have my usual soothing tones in my voice because I'm getting over a cold / maybe it's the flu. I don't know. Holding on a while, but it's evolving. It's moved into my nose more now. So,
So we hear
there's my update.
Wow.
How about you?
It feels like we don't have as much to say because we're talking every single day as part of our challenge. So if you're not on board with that yet, we're doing a Created Creative podcast challenge. And all it is doing something creative every day of February. And you can join anytime, but there are prizes.
Fabulous prizes.
So join us by just posting something on social media.
Tag us, hashtag Created Creative Challenge.
And then every day we're going live and talking about what we did that's creative. And so Ruth and I have actually talked every day of February.
How's your week?
We recently started a whole new set of preschool activities. And it's her first sort of world without me.
Yeah.
She's spending 2.5 hours twice a week in this world that I'm not a part of. And it gives me a new freedom. So I'm not overlooking that.
Yeah.
And also, she doesn't have a ton of language. So in this unknown world that seems great, it's like a theater company for kids that runs a program during the day.
Yeah. It sounds wonderful. But I feel like parenthood is this consistent, like they just start to do more and more things that you're not a part of. It, like in the same
Right.
way, it changes. But how exciting and wonderful too as she grows.
And plugs me into such interesting people.
Yes, you're meeting new people.
There are no other moms there that are American born.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
And then, of course, the French mom has this French toddler walking around speaking French. It's the cutest thing.
Oh, I'm sure. That's adorable.
Yeah, and one of the dads somehow runs all the televising of horse racing in this country.
That would be the beginning of a novel. All these parents who met each other, they all came from different places and ended up at this.
You know what, though? There's got to be a subculture that picks the theater school.
I'm sure, yeah.
And not the myriad of other excellent options.
I need you to find out the story why each of those parents gravitated to the theater school, because I bet they're very interesting people.
I hope she likes it, because they put on Shakespeare with kindergartners.
Ambitious. Wow.
They're using iambic pentameter with 5-year-olds.
That is really something.
But the bulk of what they do is read a picture book and then open. It's called Treasure Trunk. They open this, all the props and costumes for that book are in there, and then they act it out.
But that's great. I love that. How fun.
So that was my week, just entering that world.
I can't wait to hear more about it. So,
And you'll hear more about the song you heard at the beginning.
Krista. I can't believe how long I had heard that song before I realized that it was Krista who wrote it.
Well, all these songs, it does not occur to me, unless I know it was a youth encounter person and I almost remember it coming about.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple songs like that. I never think about the humans behind it.
Yes. But it was so fun to hear more about her story, the things she's making now, too.
As you're watching, Krista was such an actual rock star, not just a songwriter, figuring out her tech. And her mouth does not always line up with the sound. So just have it on and don't stare at us while you're listening.
Yeah,
But
the tech
we're
wasn't
hearing
it wasn't,
her.
Yes, she has so much good things to say, and just it didn't quite line up with.
Right. Yeah. So here's Krista.
Here's Krista. Hi, I'm so glad to see you, and you as well. Yeah.
Are you joining us from the metropolis of Milwaukee?
Oh, exactly. Actually, it's called Wauwatosa. So, yeah, it's pretty
a native
amazing.
name from the area, right?
Oh, yeah. It's a beautiful town. I'm like across the street from Milwaukee. Nice little
Mhm.
community. So, yeah, good to see you, ladies.
Yes. And now you two know each other?
No,
No. Well,
not at all.
Krista, meet Dawn. Dawn, this is Krista. And
Hi, Don.
Hi.
I'm glad you two can meet each other. Two of my favorite people now know each other. So it's a good day. And let's see, Krista and I have known each other for many a moon.
Yeah, since 1990.
1990.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're real friends.
We go way back to Concordia College.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we were in the same outdoor society. And so Ruth was the big sister in that.
Yeah.
Oh, like a sorority, but not.
Yes.
What? No, and there's no hazing involved and nothing
Very
inappropriate,
nice.
nothing
Yeah.
problematic.
Very nice. Yeah.
It was very sweet.
Yep. And we did Habitat for Humanity trips together back in college too. And Krista's a couple years younger than me, but we did get to know each other through the extracurricular things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good
My
memories.
sorority big sis is near Milwaukee also.
Wait.
This has
Wow.
never come up.
I'll have to go.
Wow.
Well, is her name
You should-
Judy?
Her name is Kelly.
Kelly.
Pediatrician. You might run into her.
That's funny.
Well, Krista, would you mind taking a few moments to introduce yourselves to our listeners?
You bet. My name is Krista Wiger, and it's Wiger, not Wiger, not those other things. It's like the millennial question. I'm pretty multifaceted. I'm a medical doctor. I'm training in internal medicine, pediatrics, and palliative care. And my big passion is for cancer care, actually. I'm a mom of 2 boys, now men child. I am a favorite sister, a daughter, a niece, and an aunt, and a partner to an incredible person. Beyond my medical profession, I'm rekindling my creative spirit actually now through more like writing, musical composition, and reconnecting with amazing people who have been part of my panoramic life up until this point. So I'm in that fun phase right now where kids are older and whatever, and you actually get to enjoy stuff, and everybody has a little more time and a little more ability and bandwidth to get together. Really a great time right now.
Wonderful. So we have lots of things that I want to talk about today, but probably the first reason that we wanted to bring you on at this time is because I just had Kathy Pino on, and she was talking about the camp song that she written, The Light of the World, that kind of became a phenomenon. And we talked about you in that episode, actually, because you also have written a camp song that everybody knows and everybody sings. And will you tell us a little bit about that song and how it came to be?
Actually, that's a funny thing because it's like how the universe works. But first of all, I just want to say thank you to Scott Sivers and Richard Culligan for making this vision, which is what I was a part of. So it was a band that was together for 18 months to write music and travel out of Iowa. I'm internally grateful for Scott and Rich for having that vision. But essentially, we lived at a camp, and in the morning, I'm a morning person and get up and have the crappy coffee and have your quintessential quiet time in the morning, where it'd be a variety of different things in terms of either writing or reading devotionals or playing whatever. Sometimes I would do the Bible roulette. And one day it was Psalm 25. And then basically just said, to you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. To you, I trust, O Lord. And that kind of just kept going in my head when I was like sitting there. And I'm like, So I picked up the guitar, and then it just flowed pretty naturally. And within 6 minutes, like roughly 6 or whatever, who knows, it just came out. And so I had the gift of being with this band with like incredibly talented musicians, actually, and just fun people. And that night we were doing a concert or program at St. Olaf. And when we were warming up and setting up a sound check and stuff like that, I'm like, hey guys, I got a new song. And they're like, all right. We played together enough that we could put stuff together pretty quickly. So we're like, let's do it tonight. So we added it to the set, and so we're at the St. Olaf Chapel, and we started, but I'm like, wait a minute, there's actions to this one.
That also came as a divine download. Actions.
But it's funny because Amy Call is a keyboardist, and she like, rolled her eyes at me more of the times than ever. It was just, oh my gosh. And so I'm like, higher than the mountain, deeper than the sea.
Wider than-
It was really quite hilarious. And so we were all laughing, and everyone was just like, oh my goodness. And everybody did. And that was the best part. They all got into it. And then fast forward 28 years, and here we are. And sometimes I'll hop on YouTube and see some weird stuff going on. What is that? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
But
And they're highly committed to those actions.
and who am I to say?
Right.
Yeah.
You're the author. The
Well, I know, but if you want to do that, have at it.
So we actually have a clip of a camp in California doing your song with the actions. Our YouTube audience actually gets to see the song in action. So thank you to LRCC, the Lutheran camp in Southern California.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So what year was this then?
It would have been 95, like
95.
between 95 and 96.
So it was right after you graduated?
Actually, it's a Providence type of thing, but I was doing a concert with my friend in college down at Wartburg, and Scott Stivers actually happened to be there because it was like the Lutheran campus ministry type of thing. And then he's like, hey, by the way, I'm starting this new program. And it just fell perfectly, just in terms of how life happens. So then instead of going to med school or something else, I did that. And then following
And
that,
still went to med school.
yeah, so it was an 18-month contract. And then I got to be a youth director for 8 months as well, which is great, in Albert Lee. And I still have some friends from that now. And then went to med school. Yeah, pretty magical, actually, to be able to do it all.
Yeah.
So how does this happen? Someone has created this creative container. You're somehow living at a camp, and the camp's feeding you and housing you.
Yep.
And you're creative all day? What
Pretty
is that?
much.
Amazing.
It's one of those times in your life. Some people do like Lutheran Volunteer Corps, some people do Youth Encounter, those types of things. But they had the vision to help write music for the church, basically. It's like the mission. And so we provided music for Okoboji Lutheran Bible Camp. And then we would travel around, and we did a couple extended tours, which were amazing. Getting in the back of the van.
Right.
Those nasty carpeted conversion vans.
Yes.
And more lasagna and pizza than you could ever imagine. New beds every night, but it was great. Honestly, it's that once in a lifetime magic time in your life when you can actually do something like that.
And remind me, so those of you traveling, did you have a name for the group or
Vision.
vision?
Vision. We finally greet each other like on Facebook still as your friends, and so it'd be like Krista Vision, Andy Vision, Andrew Vision, Amy Vision, Eric Vision. So, yes, we've taken on that as our cultic following.
Love that. Okay, so you introduced this song at St. Olaf, and then when did you start to get an idea that this song was growing?
You know, it's hard because I fell off the world for a bit because I went to med school. And obviously at camp it was take off. And the nice thing is there's all these like little fingers that go out, right? Sky Ranch. And I worked at a camp out in California. So all these like random connections that everybody has, and they just bring it and pollinate. They spread the seed, so to speak. And I was in med school, so I really had no idea. I used to still do the youth encounter events for a year. Where I just do the weekends. So I still do that 4 times a year. And then once I went to residency, I only got 4 days off a month, so I couldn't do that anymore. After I finished med school in 2000, I fell off for 20 years and had a medical career.
But the song lived on.
Well, yeah, and that's what's funny about it. So now it brightens my day. So my mom, like 10 years ago, she calls me. She's Krista Michelle. I'm like, what? And she's, did you write a song? I'm like, yes, I did, Mom. And then
He ran across.
yeah, so I was in there bolting at church. And the same thing happened to my sister down in Florida, which was pretty sweet. It warms my heart. And then random people will send me a picture of people doing it, or Kurt's will, hey, by the way, look at this. And I'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
it's super sweet.
Have you ever run into hearing it being attributed to someone else?
I haven't. The funniest thing is that it was copyrighted in 1965, which was before the birth of your Lord.
Right.
Wow, this is something.
That's
You know.
funny.
Yeah, so that's about it. And then occasionally you'll run across a YouTube person it's awesome, which is a whole nother thing. But no, it's in terms of attributing it to somebody else, I don't know that it's happened. And the question is it called Psalm 25 or is it called To You, O Lord type of thing? So there's some of that. And so
But you do have it copyrighted as your song, don't you?
it's in process with CCLI.
Oh, okay.
So it's that whole thing where I fell off the world and
Sure.
Right. So you didn't get the copyright.
yeah. I was in that hippie mindset of don't let the right hand know what the left hand is doing. That was the story of my life for quite some time. But
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
People who go to an artist colony for 18 months to write music are going to have a hippie vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because around that time, I was starting seminary. And so I wasn't in the youth encounter vein so much anymore. But I remember starting to hear it, like I think when I was bringing kids to Rainbow Trail when I was a pastor. But I had no idea for a long time that you wrote it. It's like, oh, I know the person who wrote that. And
oh,
then-
that's fun.
yeah. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Kathy Pino, too. Like we just sometimes think these camp songs just drop from the sky. But no, there's actual living, breathing people that write them.
And a funny thing at the airport, one time I was flying back and forth from New York or whatever, and there's a guy there who was clearly in camp counselor mode with like the cargos and the chacos,
Yeah.
a little on camp type of thing. And
Yeah.
he had some sort of camp t-shirt from Georgia. And I'm like, then there's like a Black Lives Matter sticker. And then I saw ELCA. I'm like, okay.
Oh,
We know each
Yeah.
other, even though we don't know each other.
And he go, oh, you work at camp? He's like, yeah. I'm like, ELCA? He's like, oh, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, he had his guitar case. I'm like, oh, do you know Psalm 25? And he goes, oh, yeah, we do that all the time. I'm like, I wrote it. And he goes, no, expletives. Yeah, it wasn't my best moment, but it was like 11 o'clock and the plane was 3 hours late and it was fun.
right. Why not, though? Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like a brush with fame.
Oh, it was-
Me, who wrote this song you're doing constantly.
Yeah, it was
Right?
funny.
I mean, if I had been on a plane when I was back working at camp and the person who wrote Pass It On or whatever said, oh, I wrote that, I would be like, oh my God.
But what if the person who wrote Pharaoh? What up?
Well, that's Louie Louie. So
Well, with that, what would you
that feels
do?
like it did evolve around a campfire, but I don't know.
Yes, if anybody knows. Oh, wait, was that it? Do you know that Pharaoh? Do you know anything about, not Jay Rudy, Jay
Oh, I know you're
something.
talking
Yeah, he was at like a Green Lake Bible camp.
beach.
Jay Beach.
Jay Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope.
I don't know.
Familiar with this work.
Yeah, if anybody knows the history of Pharaoh, please send us a note.
We do get notes in. We have very smart listeners.
Yes.
People tell us things.
Yeah, they find out things for us. So Psalm 25. Yeah.
Is there anything you wish you had changed about it before it hit the world like wildfire?
Yeah.
Not really, actually. And it's not my favorite sing along. It's my favorite one to do because it's easy and
People
everybody
love
loves it. It provides a great service to the people in terms of the joy piece of it.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah. There's other ones that I like better, but because people aren't jumping around and doing random things with their hands, they're not as catchy, but I like them.
Like the ballads.
Just more like the call and responsive type stuff, like just that back and forth and then together. I enjoy that a lot.
Tell us a little bit about what you're working on these days.
So a little bit all over the place, which shouldn't be a surprise. But in terms of the music stuff, during COVID, I started taking playwriting classes because I had that bucket list idea of writing a musical. And then I did a bunch of classes and then I did like a bunch of musical writing classes or whatever. And then it's all formula. I don't like the formula. And so everything has a formula and everything's like very whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do plays with music. I've written a couple full length plays and anybody that's in it knows that you have just a bunch of things going at the same time at different phases. So that's a lot of fun. And then I'm working on a liturgy actually, or like putting together a bunch of songs in a format that people could use it as a community provider type of thing. Ruth is aware of that. And so that's getting closer and closer. So just in terms of trying to make a tool for people to sing together. And it's something that I did with COVID all the time because it's super isolated and how do you worship in these settings and things like that. And so it came from that in terms of writing my own type of stuff. And so putting that together is the big thing. And then the third piece is writing a book, actually, with a friend of mine who is actually a writer. So I was graced with somebody that's a real writer. But I think it's going to be something like the book I wish I didn't have to write. And it's talking about ending the medical industrial complex in their cancer culture and kind of more straightforward, not fluffy. What do I do? Because now I'm in this whole other culture. So my way to give back is I'm not in the institute right now, but provide a service and provide a tool for people to help mitigate some of the huge ups and downs and things like that are going on. Lots of different things.
And so as you work on these various projects, do you have set times of day that you try to work on these things? Do you have systems in place that are working for you?
That's what I'm working on now. Basically, I do my morning pages every morning, and then it's what comes up in terms of like when I know I'm going to be seeing people, I'll be working on one thing more than the other. And so the good thing about having my friend with the book stuff is that there's more accountability. And so I'm like, I want to have something to you once a week. And of course, life happens, but it's good to have that type of framework. And then with the music part, it's like throughout the day. It's great. And I'm planning on recording. I'll go into the studio tomorrow to lay some stuff down just so I can start moving it forward. And that everything is out there and honing it in a little bit.
Yeah. And right now, who are some of your favorite creators?
In terms of, again, all over the place. So poetry, Mary Oliver, who's an amazing poet if you haven't run into her. And there's just a line in one of her poems that I read that was, there's things that you can't reach, but you can reach out to them all day long. And it will keep you busy as everything and happier. And I'm like, that is the best. I took some of the stuff out, but I'm like, yeah, she's just awesome like that.
I haven't heard that one.
That
from
is
her.
not her most quoted.
No, well, I took some of it
I
out.
like it.
Like, seriously, there's things you can't reach. Nobody likes to be told that. But anyway, she's lovely. Anne Lamott, I just adore because back in her 20s, she wrote some super important things. And now she's giving back to the world just with her writing and trying to the whole legacy part. So it's cool to see that. I see a ton of plays. I saw actually 52 plays last year.
Oh, wow.
And then also just art. Like we have a Milwaukee Art Museum that has amazingly great curated stuff. Robert Longo, he's a visual artist. And so he does like charcoal drawings of pictures and he does the history of the US. And if you go to the website, you can see it.
Yeah.
And it's just such a great way to move towards understanding when everything else just algorithmically looks bad. So if I can say it like that.
Algorithmically looks bad. That's a good phrase.
How do you feel as far as how much of creativity is discipline and how much of it is inspiration?
I think that's a tough one just because I think it changes as you get older. And of course, you'd never want to admit that. But I remember seeing the Indigo Girls talking about this and they're like, Yeah, when you're younger, like it just flows out. And I experienced that in my own life, right? Like all of a sudden you can whip out like 5 songs or all this other stuff and it's not a thing. Whereas when you get older, it's more of a practice. And I don't know if just the world and everything else just weighs cumulatively down. And so you're less free to experience these things. But I think you can't produce anything if you don't have any discipline. But discipline without creativity is not great either. It's AI, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And so what I've noticed lately is it's usually there'll be like some sort of hook or something that will happen. Like I wrote a song for my dad's funeral. And prior to that, my aunt was in that transitioning process. And I was listening to a sermon and they were talking about the verse in Isaiah about worthy of rest. And so that hook just kept going on and like this whole idea of what happens. And then I came up with the chorus and it took the longest time to get a verse. And then eventually it came, but it's just, it feels like things are a little bit more it's just more complicated, I think. And I think it's an age thing, but I don't know. I think it's just life experience and it coordinates with age by definition. But
Yeah. And how do you see your creativity and spirituality connect?
the word is symbiosis, right? Just because, again, something comes from somewhere and you can't just get a hook and all of a sudden start hearing things in your head. That's not natural. That's not how the neurons work very well.
And you are a doctor. You're talking about something you know.
Exactly. Trust me, I'm a
neurons.
doctor.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work like that. No, but it's an outside energy that puts in a way that is unique to you and unique at that moment. So I think that's the magic of it, actually. But
Yeah, I mean, that is magic, right? I mean, like, it doesn't sound like you ever would have guessed that Psalm 25 would be the song that everybody would still be singing that you wrote
Oh,
all
no.
those years ago.
And that's where the whole spirituality thing comes into it. Some things work and some things don't. But
Yeah,
sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
right.
Like I have a lot of crappy songs that never made it past the
Mhm.
second hearing.
Yeah,
So does every songwriter. Paul Simon talks about that.
yeah. But if you hadn't written all the other songs, would, Psalm 25 have happened? Like, it's just, you have to keep
Yeah.
producing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because you never
And
know.
then test marketing them at St. Olaf.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. That was fun.
Very
That's the best
cool.
word I can say for it.
Fun.
So, as you think about the various projects that you're working on now or things that you're dreaming about, is there anything that Dawn could give you coaching on today?
I think the big thing I'm working on is trying to come up with systems because, again, we all know that life happens and so you get thwarted, and that it's the combination of being under the creative, who knows when this is going to come to you, and the other. I've tried to set up sessions for each and pondered, do I do Mondays is more towards my book, Tuesdays is more towards that type of thing,
Yeah.
but that's not how it works in my head,
Right.
if that makes
Right.
sense.
So the system is like, when do you work on each of these creative projects? That's the system we need.
Yeah, and I think in how to, just in terms of artificial accountability, putting it together. And so, like, the book is pretty straightforward because I have somebody with that now.
Yep.
And it's the whole thing of 90%. It's easy to get things 90% done.
Yeah.
And so it's like trying to keep pushing everything through. And is it smarter to just focus on one and push it through? But that's, again, not how it works from a creative standpoint and from an endurance standpoint.
What if you just had something every Friday? Something is at a point.
That's definitely doable.
And then who is it going to?
And that's where 3 people, I have my book person.
Yeah.
And then the play person, I've started another playwriting class. It starts in February. So the idea behind that is that kind of sense of accountability of every week I
Yeah.
have to produce something. And then the liturgy, Ruth is going to be my person.
Oh,
She didn't know
Ruth's
this
great.
yet.
Ruth is
Okay.
right here to.
Oh, Ruth. So Ruth has agreed to every day we're going to talk. Okay.
Awesome.
That sounds
Awesome.
Just
great.
kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah. So where exactly is the rub? What can we solve?
I'm not quite sure as of yet. Right now, I don't quite have a rub.
It's the creation part right now.
There's actually something called FocusMate. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
It's a great website that goes all around the world.
Okay.
And essentially what happens is you
Oh.
sign up for a session.
Yes.
It's also
Okay.
the whole idea of parallel play.
Yeah. Co-working.
Yeah. And so I do that. I'll actually do sessions. And so there's a guy down in Austin that does a lot of writing. And so we sometimes coordinate. And I've picked up amazing people that way, just in terms of we're just going to sit down for 50 minutes. I'm like, I'm going to finish this chapter. What are you going to do? Type of thing.
Yes.
So I've been doing that.
I do that with my coaching clients.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
And we did that all summer. We had a little creative container and everybody worked on a creative project. Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Yes.
FocusMate is amazing.
Okay. So somebody monetized what we've been doing. Yeah. I love it. I didn't invent it, but
But it works out well because you get to work with people all over the world at different times. So it just holds you to that 25, 50, or 75 minutes.
right. And
But-
you rip back what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not sure what the rub is. Are you more worried about the future or the current?
I think that's the whole thing is everybody's, what are you going to do with it? And so being at peace with just saying, you know what, I'm just going to keep making this stuff and then the home will come type of thing, which I think is the smarter way to do it.
Not with the audience.
I think so. It
Yep.
feels more like legitimate.
Like The playwriting class will begin and end, but there's not a theater saying, we've hired actors, we need this play.
No, so that's part of the hard part, right? It's like having the discipline to keep it moving forward. Same thing with all of it, really. I've set an artificial deadline of I want to have a first draft of the book done in 6 months.
Okay.
And so I have that chunked off.
Are you actually working on it when you say you will?
90%.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So it's
Thanks.
more how indulgent do you become with
Yeah.
each step?
And I think the coaching might be if I brain check the coaching until I get stuff
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
And then I
Come
can
back.
pick your brain at that point. Because again, everything is in the fetal stages right now. So it's still not, okay, this is what I got. So what are some of the venues?
Yeah, you are doing the things you need to do at this stage.
Honestly, I'm in that awesome time where I get to actually step out of the river.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take in this time and everybody's, oh, you're going to write your plays. So you have your list of, man, if I wasn't working right now, I'd be doing that, whatever.
Yeah.
And then my parents got sick and the wheels fall off for other people. But really being able to be present with them has been like the best creative part of my life in a sense
Yes.
of,
Yeah.
in terms of that. Whether or not anything gets done, it's that process of going through it, which
Yep.
I get. And I'm in a fortunate spot where I can really focus on what's important that day. And I think we all have a better sense of the temporality of life and you grab what you can that day. And
Right.
if I have the choice of going out for coffee with somebody I haven't seen for 2 months or writing, I will choose the coffee. It's not, you don't say no.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at. And I'm able to do that
Uh-huh.
right now.
So when it's closer, we'll rain check and you'll come
Yeah.
back. I love that.
Yeah. I think that makes the most sense.
And I love that you're able to actually just enjoy the process of this creativity. I was listening to another podcast today and they said that's probably one of the biggest parts of success if you could fall in love with the process. Focus
Yeah.
more on that even than the goal. And it's nice that you're at a place in life where you can be a little bit leisurely about the goal.
Yeah.
Just be in love with the process. Yeah.
I think that's how I am in a sense, because even when I was doing music, like it was at that time where everything was filtering in like the Christian music world, everything blew up in terms of the evangelical, everything was in that same pot. And I got so burnt out of the Jesus is my boyfriend and all the militant songs and all the pattern that I kept hearing the numbers. And so I didn't do music for like when I was in med school, like I couldn't stand it because I'm like, I could just hear the numbers. So I didn't even enjoy music anymore. So then I'd have to do opera because I couldn't hear the numbers of the opera because it was too complicated. But yeah, it's the same thing with medicine. It's like doing the algorithms isn't pleasurable either. But it's like when you can put some creativity that only the people in that room can make that outcome. Like that's great. So that's good stuff.
I think Krista would be a perfect person to come on our Amsterdam trip, don't you, Dawn?
Yeah.
You'd be a good example to everyone there of falling in love with the process. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
It's next May, not this May.
Okay.
May 26th. We're going to Amsterdam to just be creative together at the crossroads
Ah.
of the Western world.
That's awesome. The
Join us.
Van Gogh Museum there is so great.
We went to MoMA last Friday and saw the Van Goghs that are here in New York.
Ah.
So we're ready. We're studying.
Oh, it's awesome.
Nice.
Ah.
I can't wait to hear more about how it unfolds over time, but I'm happy for all the things that you're making each day.
Me too.
Thank you for listening to Created Creative.
We're so glad that you were with us to share in creative ideas with us.
And throughout the month of February, we want to include you in the creativity.
We are having a 28-day creativity challenge, encouraging everyone to explore a new creative activity each day. No repeats, 28 different things. And then the things that you try, take a picture and post it on social media with the hashtag Created Creative Challenge.
So go to createdcreativepodcast.com to sign up for the challenge and to get a list of 100 ideas to do during your 28-day challenge.
And Don and I will be going live each day to share our own creative quests.
Now, but especially during February. Go create something.
Go create something!